Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to Night After Night, podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandes, and
I'm Chris Jayawardena. Hello.
And we're still in season 2 of Laverne and Shirley. We're about to review Good Time Girls, directed by James Burrows and written by Laura Levine. Do you have any info about these folks, Chris?
Okay, so Laura Levine did 2 episodes of Laverne and Shirley, and then also went on to do some more television, an episode of Lewis and Clark here, 2 episodes of Three's Company over there, a couple of episodes of Private Benjamin, and then wrote 17 episodes of Out of This World in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, wow! Man, I used to watch all the time as a kid.
That was something I think it was. I remember seeing it on, but I don't know if I ever. Well, okay. Now that I'm seeing the picture, now those characters look familiar, so I probably saw an episode or 2 as
Donna
a kid.
Pescow plays the mom. Steve Burton from General Hospital has a very early role as the boyfriend, and it's about an alien girl, half alien girl, who can stop time by putting her 2 fingers together. I believe I know all this. Jeez. 80s.
That's why this is familiar. Yep, I remember that. Yeah, because it was when I was a young kid, I was really into science fiction in general, and so it was just like anything sci-fi I wanted to try. And I think I probably watched an episode or 2 and was like, let's stick to something else. But and then obviously with Burrows, is James Burrows again, this one more episode. I mean, he did the previous episode as well as a few others through the series, and we'll be seeing his name again as absolute legend. And in this particular episode, we're really going to get to see how he handles kind of wide shot staging for physical comedy, because there's a particular long take in this episode that was pretty choreographed, and I was very impressed with how they executed that. And that's a good director helps pay attention to the timing of those sort of things. Yeah,
he is a master of directing sitcoms. He's a legend, and in this show, he is no exception to that rule. He just puts out amazing stuff, episode after episode. And well, this is what this particular episode happens to be about. Speaking of episodes, ha ha ha. Anyway. A Saturday night at home caused the girls to bring up their high school friend, Hickey Hector Kestenbaum, who has been regularly pestering them both for dates for a while. He predictably shows up to ask them out again. When both girls lie to him badly about their plans for the evening, Hector decides to claim his revenge. He scrawls their phone number on the men's room wall of Vinny's pool hall, resulting in the girls being victimized by heavy breathers, obscene phone callers, mashers, and gropers. Clued in by a couple of overeager dates, and thanks to some clever manipulation of the latest caller to their home, the girls realize they're going to have to take drastic measures to both clear the wall of their names and get Hector off their backs. So what do you think of this episode?
Well, characters like Hector are a little frustrating for me, so this one was a little hard to stomach in parts, but it's a case of there's wonderful moments. It is consistently funny. The dialogue is pretty much almost every joke verbally in this episode lands pretty much. Yeah. From the, my face, it's like a green mint muscle toner. It's like, it was a whole $1. My face ain't worth $1, it's like, do you want someone who plays with their food, while Laverne's chucking the cheese around, and then her face is like, and you can hear the audience react to that line too. I love that in particular. But yeah, it's an episode. I do think what was good was that even though it's very much a lesson episode, its lesson is done about a very adult topic, which was interesting to confront in a very kind of almost kid show sort of way. Yeah. And so it comes off as strangely, what would be the word? Well, it's not whimsy, but it's like, it's where it's
lighthearted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, the way they tried to tackle the subject, they kind of softball it in a way, because Hector has caused them, like, extreme, like, drama, so to speak, with these perverts constantly calling them, thinking they're going to get something off of them, and then they're like, "Wow, the hell was happening?" And yet, the end lesson is that, they Shirley has to give him, they were just friends speech.
Right.
Which is like, he needed to pay way more in the way of consequences. Way more.
Exactly.
Way more.
Exactly.
Way more.
yeah, it uses it's like it uses kid show logic to deal with an adult topic, which I think is why it I laughed, but there was definitely a sick feeling in my gut at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. The problem with the whole situation is that there's a way the show handles Hector versus the way it's going to end up handling Lenny and Squiggy as the seasons go on. And as relationships get complicated, they kind of like use this kind of stuff too in a way, but not quite. And it's just frustrating because the show really won't let the girls like draw that firm line and say no, this is wrong. They try to keep the friendship intact,
Right.
which is interesting to me because we never see Hector again.
Oh wow.
After this episode, I don't think. This is the last time we see him, I think, unless he shows up in the reunion show episode. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. And they go to this extreme length to keep a friendship with a guy who keeps M&Ms in his socks. And it's not like he's endeared himself to them, like the boys have. The boys are always there. The boys are helpful. The boys are in their life all the time. So it's not like they have to like dance around it and like keep him entertained and be nice to him.
Right.
And instead, they're nice to him. For absolutely no, and keep their friendship intact for like no real reason. It's incredibly.
It's sort of, and the fact that they fall for the guilt trip that he lays on them really didn't sit well with me, because it's like he doesn't listen. This is a guy who's never going to listen, and he's so dense. And this it's like and that type of guilt tripping, in real life is usually very, at least half conscious, that you're doing that you're that person, that when a person does that, they are aware that they are trying to induce guilt as to get what they want. And that was, that was a part that just didn't sit super well with me. I noticed that part of this is going to become an issue just with me with sitcoms in general. And this has been an issue for years, is that not just are there no consequences, is that a friendship can't end. Relationships can't end in a sitcom at the end, and I mean, Futurama famously joked about that with the invasion episode where the Omicronians invade and want their the McNeil, the Ally McBeal spoof. And that's the punchline at the end, is that everything goes back to normal at the end of the TV show, which is what Fry says, that obviously that's what they wanted. They didn't want good TV. They wanted something where everything goes back to normal. And at the end, you pan outside the building and the whole city is on fire because of the alien invasion. The severity of, I guess, the fact that this was a message episode makes it feel like going back on that sort of that push towards, set your boundaries wasn't a healthy, it's an unhealthy afterthought to a rather important message to make. Yeah,
exactly. The problem with Hector and them doing this Hector is that they're never going to see him again in a way. So they could have just nipped him in the bud and gotten rid of him and had made a point, but they didn't make a point. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
They could have made the point, but they didn't make the point.
Yeah.
So close, show. So close.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, please go on. I was
rambling. No, go.
Well, it's it comes back to, there's this line that happens, I think it's something Shirley says, is you can't tell the truth if it's going to hurt someone's feelings. And it's like, oh yes, you can. You can. Yes, kids at home, you can set boundaries. And if it hurts them, it's not necessarily, I mean, you have to take responsibility for having hurt them, but you don't have to hold on to that responsibility, and make it your job to then make them feel better about what happened, because, they're the one that made the mistake. They have to learn to live with it. And if they feel guilt about it, it's their process to go through. Yeah.
The show later contradicts this point twice, at least twice. We'll get there eventually, but it's just, they could have done something more interesting.
Yeah.
And they could have gone for it in a different way. So that's kind of like disappointing. I thought it was interesting. This is written by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of got that, early first wave feminist kind of feeling of, look at this crap that women have to go through. This is ridiculous to it. Even with that, like, double standard ending nightmare. I thought that was a really interesting, notion that you have someone there who's a woman probably saying, stop this nonsense, gentlemen, even underneath all this. So,
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But yeah, we get more of the date rape humor in this episode, unfortunately.
Oh God.
Once again.
Yep. And I mean, it's as I mentioned at the start, there's this one take, scene, and that's the one is the assault, and it's unfortunate it has to be that because it is incredibly choreographed. I mean, the physicality of it is it's one of those. If this was a fight scene, like not a sexualized assault scene, if this is like a fight with 4 guys, this would be hilarious, But because of the context of it being essentially date rape, this isn't okay.
Exactly.
But I mean, their faces and they look like 2 solicitors out of a Monty Python episode. So I mean, it's a, you can kind of, it's like, okay, they kind of set it up a little bit, but God.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so happy when Frank saves the day and he's like, I should have killed him. And I'm like, yeah, you should have.
Yeah. Exactly, you should have.
And as we're going to learn about Carmine later, I mean, Carmine probably would know where to hide the bodies.
Exactly. Carmine with his secret underworld connections that finally start coming up this season.
Yep.
I was going to say, I thought it was a little bit awkward about how they kind of shoehorned Frank in. He actually witnesses Laverne dressing in the window, kind of to prepare for him being the reason for why they got saved from horrifying assaults. But I thought that was it was awkward and yet funny because, I forgot the window was open, Pop. Stop dressing and getting naked in the living room. Stop getting naked in the living room.
Yep.
This show, this mixed blessing of the show sometimes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Carmine and Lucille. Carmine tries to get the girls to go out on a double date with him and Lucille in this episode, which, okay. Well, what the heck he's thinking, but go for it.
God, yeah, the Carmine and Lucille. I also didn't like the way that he was talking to Lucille. He was shouting at her about, she's honking the horn in the car. It was just, I'm not going to be too much down on Carmine for this, but or this time, we will get to him later in the season. But it was also, I was like, no, dude, and it's like, yeah, gonna take me to Europe. It's like, could you stop rubbing that in? At this point, you're talking about it so much, it's clearly not going to happen. You're just riding this train for like the next couple of months, and then you're done. I mean, this is like Sam Axe, and all of his widows and divorcees. It's like no, they're never going to take it to Acapulco. They're not going to take it to Japan. They're not going to, they're not going to buy a house for you. No, it's not going to happen. Oh man.
She called me Sailor. I was gonna say, with Carmine is tone deaf on his part because he's saying this to a girl who still clearly has a torch for him. You see from the way Shirley reacts to everything he says about Lucille and the whole situation that she is either not over the way they broke up completely or is annoyed about hearing about the relationship, and yet he continuously brings it up and will not shut up about it in front of her. And get a hint, dude. She doesn't want to hear about this stuff, dude. She does not want to hear about this shit.
Yeah, but that's the catch. I mean, that's, like I said, I'm not gonna super dunk on Carmine because I don't know if there was something else going on. It could have just been the obliviousness of the writers and the staff just deciding we need to make sure that this is established what the relationship is because they've broken up since the last season, and he's got the new gal. But it's kind of like, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a case of, they were going to try to get Lucille in for a bit, in this episode, and the schedule didn't work out, or, the budget for the episode was like, well, we can't afford another actor in the episode. And so they had to ditch Lucille actually coming in and talking with them. And so this is a way to keep her in the scene. And yeah. And I mean, there's even that, that stupid line where it's like, if you keep honking the horn like that, I'm not going to let you take me to Europe or something like that.
Yeah, that's the exact line.
Yeah. And so, see, that's the thing. I should not be able to BS my way through it and create and recreate that line from a half remembered moment. You know, it's one of the few weak spots of the dialogue, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, we'll hear about this nonstop. We'll hear about, him and Lucille and the European trip and how she's buying him a suit and all that jazz. So their relationship will continue apace throughout the season, for better or for worse. So this brings us
I will continue to roll my eyes.
This brings us to the pool hall scene.
Yes.
Which is really fun and really great, and the episode's highlight, I think. Because the girls just march in there wearing Lenny and Squiggy's clothing, which I think is great in a lot of different ways. Wearing the boys' clothing with a paint remover, and they just go in there and they just erase their names. They just do it. They go for it.
Yep.
And they're just like done with it, and that is just great. And then the boys catch them by mistake because they're on a date there.
And they keep getting. I love that I love that they act so tough, and we know they're dorks. And I love that they get pushed around in the pool hall because, of course, they do.
Yeah, exactly. They get pushed around in the pool hall. They think they're much tougher than they are. They try to make fun of the girls' clothing, and they're wearing their own clothing. They're wearing their clothing.
I know. It's like, where'd you get that? It's the bottom of your closet.
Yeah. And we recognize that that's clothing from the bottom of their closet is the best part because they're clearly wearing wardrobe that we have seen on Lenny and Squiggy before. That's Lenny's winter coat. That's his jeans. That's his blue t-shirt. That's Squiggy's purple shirt. Yeah, it's their clothing. And the boys don't recognize their own clothing. Don't recognize the girls until Laverne takes off her hat. And Shirley has to literally go, "It's me, it's Shirley." Oh, Shirley and Laverne. Oh, what are you doing in the men's room? It's like a secret club.
Yeah, I love how Squiggy overreacts and is covering himself with Lenny's jacket at that point when it's like, you're fully dressed, man. Come on. But it's also, that's a great overreaction. I mean, the dialogue in this whole sequence in the pool hall. I mean, even the bit with Fred Willard making his cameo with the mustache.
Yes.
I mean, all of those pieces, even as awkward and cringy as it is when they first come into the pool hall, and it's like, "Oh, we want to shoot a couple of holes." It's like, "Oh no, I gotta go to the little boys' room." Yeah, I'll go with you. I love Shirley's man voice. It is hilarious and adorable all at once. I love it, and
I love Greaser Shirley. Period. That's one of Cindy Williams' best looks. I will say that flat out. It really is. She looks great like that. I don't know why
that definitely gave. Yeah, I remember. I was like, "Woof!" when you sent me the picture of that before we actually got to this episode. Yeah. Gave me a little tease. It was just like, "Oh, hi, hello, okay." I mean, it's no Marlena Dietrich in a suit, but nothing is. So
hey, it comes close.
It's close enough. So it's like 65 to 75% of the way at least, and that's pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, and it's that whole scene though, and with the boys is great, and then especially how Squiggy is like, "Oh, Hector really fixed your wagon," which I think is even what he says when he writes down the names on the name and phone number on the wall is I'm gonna fix their wagon. And Squiggy even responds it, but it's like, I can recognize that guy's handwriting from a mile away.
His scrawl from a mile away.
His scrawl, I love the use of that word. Some really good little slang and zingers to the whole, and really it comes out the best in that sequence. But it's all throughout too. I mean, it's as mentioned, as much as there's the weak spots of this episode. I mean, I feel that the strong dialogue throughout, delivery, the writing is really good, and we keep coming back to the difficulties with rehearsals and the actors and the writers. I'm wondering if this was one where it was either refined by some of the other story consultants or the other writers in the writing room that had a better relationship with the actors, or if the actors were able to have some sort of, you got to wonder how many of these episodes there was more of a truce, because this one just dialogue wise fires so well in so many cylinders. I'm really curious how that, or if it was even Gary and James, the director, bringing this all together.
Yeah, honestly, it's a crapshoot depending week for week what that was going on behind the scenes. Yeah. It was a volatile place. As we have talked about before. I loved it when Laverne, I think it was Laverne, asked Squiggy, who really Hector gets involved, and goes, "No, General Hector gets involved," which cracks me up every time I watch this episode. Every
Yep.
single time the way he delivers that line, because you were talking about how sharp the dialogue is. That's my favorite line. There's a lot of good stuff. Even the graffiti on the men's room wall is funny.
Yes.
Pressed Colyetta is really good. If you got Boots, you get Betty. It's like...
And I love Laverne disappointed by the joke. It's like, oh, the rest of it's smeared, you know?
Yeah, she can read the rest of the Dirty Limerick, which is out there. You want to look that up, kids? That's out there.
Oh,
it's
boy.
an actual Dirty Limerick.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to look that up after we're done with this.
That's famous. That's famous Dirty Limerick.
Awesome.
That one, and later on in the series, boys teach a child there once was a girl from Nantucket Limerick, and they get the first line out before Laverne cuts them off. She knows where it's going.
Oh, that's great.
That's season 6. That's ahead of us. That's way ahead of us. At the moment. Yeah. But, yeah.
And speaking of dialogues and reactions and things like that, the dirty phone call and the reaction on Cindy's face and Cheryl, that it's such a visceral response to that. Is that, what did this one want? Something totally out of the question.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I remember you pointed this out when we were reviewing the episode, is that they know the name of Sylvia's escort service.
Yes, which is completely so random. Like, I don't even know if it's because they whisper about it between each other, or they've gotten dirty calls before and it's supposed to be for her, or what. But man.
So here's one of my possible theories. What if one of the Angora Debs actually went to work there?
Oh gosh. Man. Yeah, I can picture it.
Yep.
Wanna go Belle du Jour? We'll go Belle du Jour on that one.
Oh God. Oh no. I have tried twice now to watch that film, and man, that just doesn't work for me.
That's never been my thing. It's never my thing at all. I just know what the movie's about. But yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of fun, weird stuff though that happens throughout the episode. There's some good, funny stuff. And also I just scrolled back past this note, which is talking about, it's like, you're gonna embarrass me with what you do in the back seat, and it's like, if you wouldn't be embarrassed if you didn't watch through the rearview mirror. Well, I hear noises, I get curious, and it's like, okay, so if Laverne's the exhibitionist, does that mean Shirley is the voyeur then? I mean, is that...
That's possible. That is possible. That doesn't get like really explored. Even when they move next door to a movie star with a mirrored ceiling, that doesn't get explored a lot. I guess, in a way, there's an interesting episode coming up where that gets reversed and discussed in Playing the Roxy, where Shirley thinks she's a stripper for a whole episode, and that happens.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's coming. But, yeah. I don't know.
Is this also...
No, I don't think so.
Also, just a real quick question, is this also the first time we hear the term loosey-goosey?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the first time they use it at all during this particular episode. I think so. This is also the first time they bring up Lenny chewing sen-sen, which is a kind of little licorice gum. Little tiny little chunks of licorice gum, little squares. It's kind of like chiclets. I think it's like chiclets. And you chew it, and it tastes like licorice, and it smells like licorice. And that's how Laverne knows he's on a hot date. He's chewing sen-sen before he found him buying sen-sen at the drugstore. So.
Got it.
You brought up how good the dialogue is, and I just have this whole list of good quotes. Like, I didn't know accountants got excited. And then at the end, when Shirley yells at what she thinks is an obscene caller, she just quietly hands the phone to Laverne and goes, "Boy, is your father mad?" This is perfect.
Oh, that delivery is so golden.
It's perfect. It is perfect. And her horror that Hector spells Shirley with a U. That is my favorite.
Yes.
Look at this. They spelled Shirley with a U. And that's one of my favorite lines. Probably in the whole series. They just spelled Shirley with a U.
Yep. Yeah, and there's there's that bit, let me just scroll back down here. Laverne, playing along with the guy on the dirty caller on the phone to figure everything out, and she goes, "You're sick, except it makes me sick, except for possibly that third thing there, but everything else makes me sick."
Yes. Yeah, I want to know. You want to know what the third thing is? You'll never find out. Do you want to know?
Yeah,
He's like,
I do.
Yeah, but that's,
I'm curious. We do also, I do have my mention in this is well, we should probably at least make it clear, especially if someone hasn't watched the episode yet, and we're giving all this praise to the Dalek, is us as a more modern audience definitely have issue with Lenny's use of the word Negro. That definitely is.
Yeah.
It's very of the time, especially of the 50s. That was like the nicer way to call it, but today it's not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. That is, that could have been worse. We will get.
Oh, yeah.
We thankfully do not have horrifying, over the top, stuff like that in the show. This show, thankfully, thankfully. We have like more black characters, Gary Marshall. We like more black characters, but if they're gonna reboot this show, they better. Is all I gotta say.
Yep. I mean, they probably will, and then there'll be a bunch of people getting upset about it.
Yeah, that's life.
Because the internet sucks.
Oh yeah.
And we hey, we're allowed to say that because we're on it all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so what do you give this episode rating wise?
This is roughly probably about 5 for me. Again.
Yeah.
Classic bit with the whole men's room thing. A lot of little bits of dialogue that really work and are perfect. So, but everything else, like Hector needs more of a comeuppance. There are a couple of little plot holes that annoy me. Otherwise, performance-wise, everything else is right mid-pack for me.
Yeah, I think I'll give about the same. I think maybe like a 5.5 on a good day. Maybe a 6. Like there's scenes in this that are like a 6, like a 7. But it's a case of where, I think the issues hold it back. I think the date rape joke really takes it down a lot of notches for me, and agreed that it can't. In some ways, it can't commit to the message it really needs to make, and it even kind of is flirting with the idea of cutting him off entirely and giving him showing him the door, and the fact they can't commit to that is a weakness to the episode, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah, like actually, I even jotted down your note that you commented that it's like an awkward Aesop,
Yes, awkward Aesop. Morally, it's awkward because they can't have the girls not be his friend because they just don't go for it.
Because friendship always has to be, has to win out at the conclusion. It's like in the real world, we all know that's not true, man.
Yeah,
exactly. Sometimes friendship has to lose, or has to go away, and that's okay. That's just them. That's the world.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think that's it for this episode.
I think it is. Cool. All right. And once more, as usual, if you would like to reach out to us and get in touch and check in on we do our little kind of watch-alongs with the tag on Twitter at NightAfNightPC on Twitter. We also are on Facebook, Tumblr, and WordPress and Patreon at Night After Night Pod. And and the Patreon, if we got some, we have our main incentive. We're trying to hit a particular goal so that we can actually kind of do some special episodes. This is keep it as pretty busy as it is, but if you want us to do more, we would be happy to do so. But we're hoping to get some resources for that. But I think that's kind of the main thing, and I guess that's kind of it. Yeah. So what do we got next? I think I was checking around our recording spaces here, and I think a couple of our weirdos are missing.
Yes. The boys try to run away with the circus. That's really all you need to know, and it's something that you knew they were going to do eventually at some point in the series, now didn't you? It's so fitting for them. Their lives are dire. They run away with the circus. The girls try to stop them. And it is indeed called Two of Our Weirdos Are Missing.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. But cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. And Lisa, as always, thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're welcome. As always, this is your show too.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I need to finally start calling it our
Yeah.
show now because I'm in too deep, man.
You're here
You pulled me in too
You're
deep
here
to the deep end.
and ever,
I've grown
and
gills.
ever. At least until season 8 happens. Season 8. Season 8.
Okay, I'll say it. I go here. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye now.